Now, even by Washington standards, a dizzying day. The article was impeachment started in Congress. They'll hit home, of course, is Washington, start in Congress, hit home at the White House. Donald Trump once said the stock market would crash if Democrats ever tried to impeach him. Now the president's fighting the political fight of his life, and only 11 months before the next election. On Capitol Hill, though, back across Pennsylvania Avenue, there were, even after announcing impeachment, proving that you can still get work done, Democrats unveiled a breakthrough for the new trade deal between the US, Canada and Mexico, following months of negotiations, modernizing the trade in North America. And in the Treasury, there are reports of the next round of tariffs could be delayed. They are due to hit in 5 days' time. We'll discuss China tariffs in a moment. Let's stick, though, more importantly, with USMCA for the second. Matt Rivers is in Mexico City. Matt, the significance here, Matt, is that they have managed to, that they've already signed the deal. They've actually signed the USMCA that was renegotiated. So this now just has to be ratified. But since the Dems in Congress have approved it already, that will happen.
Yeah, I mean, they're saying it's going to happen. We saw the signing ceremony, Richard, happen just within the last half an hour or so. The U.S. Trade Representative, joined by several of his counterparts from Canada and Mexico here in Mexico City. It's the second time we have seen a USMCA signed. The first time coming, of course, a little over a year ago. But Democrats held up ratification of that trade agreement because they said it wasn't good enough. They said they needed more protections for workers. They wanted inspections down here in Mexican factories. They wanted to make sure there were certain provisions in there in terms of salaries, in terms of minimum wage for workers, environmental protections, the list goes on. And yet, here we are. This was a year-long negotiation between Democrats and the White House, between the U.S. Trade Representative and the chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee. Both men said it got heated at times, but they eventually figured it out. And where that leaves us now is just kind of a formal process. We could see a vote in the House of Representatives as early as next week, potentially December 19th. Here in Mexico, they're expected to ratify it. In Canada, that's going to be the same thing. And it leaves us, Richard, in this kind of weird place where we're talking about a bipartisan agreement. When was the last time you heard Democrats say, yes, we are really happy with this, and Republicans say, we're happy with this too? It's kind of bizarre. Doesn't happen in Washington very often anymore, but yet both sides are going to tout this as a win.
So there are two aspects to it. First of all, there's the difference between the old NAFTA and USMCA, and then you've got the improvements, so they say, that the Democrats claim they made to the original negotiated treaty of USMCA. How different is this final version?
Well, what you have Republicans and Democrats both saying, now Republicans would have said this was the case a year ago. Democrats are saying only after they made changes to it have we gotten to this point. But they basically are both saying that this better protects the American worker. The big knock against NAFTA, negotiated during the Clinton administration, was that it threw American workers under the bus by using cheap labor here in Mexico to undercut salaries, to undercut prices, and therefore make the American factory and the American worker less expensive. What Republicans and Democrats have now come together on is that that's not going to be the case anymore, that American workers are going to be guaranteed higher wages, that they're guaranteeing that more of the source material and things like cars and, for example, like steel, a vast majority of that has to come from North American factories. So they're saying that there's a lot more protections in there for the ordinary worker. That is what Democrats and Republicans are going to go back to their respective bases during this Christmas holiday and say, this is what we did for you. And here in Mexico, we know that they're really happy about this because they can see it as a continued way to secure U.S. investment here in an economy that really needs the investment.
Matt, thank you. Matt Rivers is in Mexico City tonight.